Welcome to another Trikke Tech training, and today we'll be focusing on the brake system. The brake system on the Trikke uses oil, it's a hydraulic brake. So the way it works, basically, you have a brake lever that's acted by your hand. It's a pump, and there's an oil reservoir here on the top. This is the master cylinder. And then we have connected to the master cylinder, this pump, we have a hose, okay, an oil hose. And the front brake, the hose goes straight to the caliper here on the front. But on the rear brake, this hose comes down here and then splits to two lines, and each line goes to one of the rear calipers. This hose will go inside of the arm, and then it will connect to the brake caliper. So this is the way it works. But the problem here is if the line is not filled with oil or partially filled with oil and has air bubbles inside, the brake will not work. It will just feel like you're compressing air, so there's no pressure. When you are working on the system, like this vehicle here, we have a vehicle that have never been filled with oil. It's coming from the assembly line. So we use an electric pump on the assembly line that's much faster, but basically my kit mimics the system that we have from the assembly line. If you're just replacing a caliper, usually if the line is still filled with oil, you can replace the caliper without having to bleed the whole line. You install the caliper already filled with oil. This is the way we ship calipers for replacement. But no matter what, sometimes you get air in the line and it becomes a very difficult process. So I will show you how we're gonna do. The kit is basically this hose that has two valves and two connectors. This is a shut-up valve. It splits here and goes up to the handlebar. This will connect to each of the rear calipers. If you are working on the front brake, you keep one shut and just use one connection. This is a reservoir that we will bolt to the top of the master cylinder reservoir. Also, you will need 3 Allen wrenches, 5, 4, and 3. You will need the oil. We use this bottle. You will see that we'll connect this bottle to the system here. And we use this for the final part that we'll have to add a little bit of oil to the reservoir before we close and finish our job. So I remove the plug, open the reservoir. Keep track of this plug so you don't lose it. I will install the reservoir. It has a 6 thread here and it has a little O-ring. When you install, don't tighten too much. It will seal. Don't need to over tighten this. Turn the handlebar in a way that this is the highest point of the system. We have to bleed both calipers at the same time because it's the rear brake. The caliper has this bleeding bolt here. Okay, I'll prime a little bit. I'll remove the bolt. So this is where we connect the holes. I'll remove both sides here. And just by hand, you don't need to use any tool because it has O-rings. So once you connect, you tighten by hand is enough. The same on the other side. So you see what we have here. It's a connection, a splitter, and then this is where we're gonna connect the top of the line here. So what's gonna happen? We pump, the oil will go down, and the bubbles and oil will come up, and we'll drop oil here back to the reservoir, and we'll keep it recirculating until we have the system with no bubbles or just oil. First, we will have to add oil to the reservoir. So your bottle should be maximum a quarter. I will explain why. So once you get maybe 2/3, it's enough. Before we reconnect this, the bottle will start the process, okay? And the bottle has to be on the floor. This is why I said I don't want this bottle filled too much, because when I put on the floor, I don't want to spill. Very important, and this job can be very messy if you start dropping oil, leaking oil everywhere. Always have a nice dry rag. Any spill you can clean right away. So to start the process, we have oil on the main reservoir. I will open the valves by the calipers, and then I will open this valve to the bottom. You see that the oil start moving. If you pay attention here, the oil from the top start going down the line and start pushing air through these holes. The nice thing about the clear holes that you can see it's moving already. So the oil is coming from the top, pushing the air out. This is the air that's coming out. The oil is dripping in the bottom. So the step one here is basically to get oil in the line. But there will be oil and bubbles, okay? The bubbles or the air is moving out and there's oil filling the whole system. Now, not just air is coming out, but oil is coming out. So this is time for us to shut this valve that takes the oil to the bottle. And the level here just went down because it filled the line, but there's still some oil inside. You connect this. This is a return, so the oil will return. And very important, this valve here is a one-way valve. I can only push oil this way, it will not return. Now I will start pumping. You will see when I pump here, every time I pump here, you will see movement because there's oil inside. I could not do this with air inside. Keep pumping and you see that the air is coming here. Basically air and oil, and the reservoir is just capturing the oil, all the bubbles. You can even hear that bubbles and oil and air coming. We're gonna be pumping until we have no bubbles coming from the calipers, okay? So you will have to do this for maybe 3-5 minutes, okay? So we get a good bleeding. So we don't need to add more oil because the oil is coming back and recirculating. And you see the bottle here is just, the valve is closed, it's doing nothing, it's just hanging. The bottle was important for us to start the system, and you saw that they put the bottle on the floor. So then we were able to initially fill the line with oil. So I see that I'm pumping and I still see these micro bubbles. This is the nice thing about these transparent hose. I can see these micro bubbles still here. You will pump this for maybe 3 to 5 minutes, okay? And less bubbles. I still see some bubbles moving here. Still have these micro bubbles. Okay, we finished bleeding. With time, the brake will get better because all these little micro bubbles will bleed to the top, to the reservoir. So the next step here will be disconnecting things, okay? We will shut these two valves and we will disconnect. Before disconnecting the hose from the calipers, we have to empty this reservoir. Remember, this reservoir is halfway with oil. What I'm gonna do, I will open this valve and collect this oil here. So what you have to do is to look inside and observe when it's empty, okay? So you see the oil is dripping here. I just have to make sure that when I remove this reservoir here, the oil will not spill. So I have to empty it. So it just emptied. I'll close this valve now and I will disconnect. To be able to do this, to disconnect, you have to lock the parking brake here. Okay, so once you lock the parking brake, the oil will not go down. The oil will stop here, lock here, and even if I disconnect, the oil will not run down. So keep the rag always ready. We have these little plugs. Keep it ready for reconnecting. You see that the oil will not run down because it's trapped by the master cylinder. We'll do the same on the other side to disconnect. As I said, there will be just a little bit of oil that will come from the hole. Get the other set screw and plug that hole. Okay, so we just filled the line with oil. What will be the next step? Let's fine-tune our bleeding process. I will disconnect my return hose from the reservoir. So once I disconnect this, now I will use this little bottle with this needle and I will fill the master cylinder reservoir. So keep it pumping, and I will have to add more oil. So the whole line should be full of oil. Only here the top that was a little empty because we intentionally we did that to disconnect. I have pressure here, so what you have to do is to keep priming the pump, the line, until it gets stable. Okay, so now the reservoir is full. Keep it that way, keep it open. The final touch will be to bleed a little bit more, because remember, when we disconnect and disconnect the hose and add the plug, there will be some bubbles here that stays. So what we're gonna do, you will pump and hold and lock, and then we will bleed one by one. Maybe we'll bleed it twice each one. You see, there's some air and oil coming. I'll do it again. So I lock the parking brake, and I will lose, you see, bleed a little bit. And this is the final one on this side. I will do the same on the other side. Lock, parking brake. Every time I do this, I feel the brake is getting a little better, okay? Open, close, and do once again. So twice per caliper, or even 3 times per caliper. Yeah, getting better pressure. See? Okay. Remember, if the oil came out here, we'll need to add more oil on the top, because taking the oil from the top. We are done here. One important thing, if you're replacing only the brake lever and the master cylinder, you just disconnect the hose from the master, replace it, and put a new one. But remember, the whole line is filled with oil. You don't need to bleed it again. Just disconnect, reconnect, and add oil, and keep pumping. That it will bleed itself pretty quick, this upper part. If you're replacing a caliper and you still have oil on the line, let's say the caliper has a slow leak, means the oil is still on the line from the top to the bottom, we can ship to you the caliper, or you can prepare the caliper with oil inside, okay? So when you disconnect here, from here up, there's oil, but always you have to lock the parking brake so the oil doesn't run down. And then you replace the caliper full of oil and reconnect. It will work right away, and the only thing you have to do is to bleed this bolt. So if you don't need to mess with the whole line, better. But if you get air in the line, you will have to use this kit and go through the process. So I will repeat this process on the front brake now. Don't forget to add this plug again. Make sure the plug has the O-ring on the bottom. Okay, we are working on the front brake now. It's a direct line. I don't have 2 calipers, it's just 1 caliper. To have access to my master, I will have to move this display out of the way. Keep the bolts here. Remember what I said last time. Turn the handlebar in a way that this is the highest part of the system. I will install the reservoir to the reservoir, okay? So don't need to tighten much. It has an O-ring. I will connect my hose to the front caliper, remove the plug. These 2 connectors, I will use only one, and we will keep the other one shut. Okay, I will have to add the oil to the top, 2/3. It's a small line. The front one has only 1 caliper. Always keep oil on the reservoir so there's no air going in the line. So I will start by putting this on the floor, opening the line for the caliper that we are working. So remember that the whole line has air, okay? And the oil is not coming down because there's air here in the line. But once I open here, air can come out. It's already coming. You can see already that's empty here. The air is coming out and it's pushing, you see, pushing the oil that was inside of the hose, because these holes will always have oil inside. When you finish your job, keep the oil inside. But you see that the air is already pushing the oil. Once you see that there's oil coming from the caliper, it means that we have oil on the whole line, some bubbles, and then we'll connect the top part. It will take some time, it's by gravity, and it's time for us to close the valve that goes to the bottom, connect to the reservoir. So remember, this is a one-way valve. It will only allow the oil and the air go this way, not the other way, so I can start pumping. So I'm pumping and the oil is moving. I will pump until we don't have bubbles anymore, but it's almost impossible to not have micro bubbles. As I said, with time these bubbles will clump into bigger bubbles and it will bleed on the top master cylinder. Now that you finish bleeding, we have to remove the reservoir. To remove the reservoir, we have to empty the reservoir. It's half full of oil. I will open the valve to the bottle. Look inside here at the reservoir. I will empty that reservoir and the oil is coming here in the bottle. Once it's empty, then I can remove the reservoir. It's almost empty. Okay, so I can shut this valve. Very important, now you will lock the parking brake. So it's locked, the oil will not flow down. Now we will disconnect the hose from the caliper. You have to shut this before you disconnect. Clean a little bit. You see the oil will not run because the master cylinder is locked. We'll add the plug. Keep it cleaning here, so a little bit of oil will come out. The same thing we did with the rear one. We will pump, pump, pump. I will disconnect this now. Remember, now this reservoir it's kind of empty. We have oil on the whole line, but the reservoir is empty. Always keep the reservoir full. Now we can pump. Yeah, have a really good pressure here. I will pump, I will lock, and I will bleed. So we have pressure there, it's locked, and you have to open, you will see it bleeds. So on the front one, just one time is enough for you to make sure you tight weld, not too much, but this has to seal. So yeah, we just finished another bleeding the front. We plug it back. Remember, it has a O-ring here. You don't need to tie too much, just enough. So we just bled the front brake, rear brake. The process is the same, but you just have to learn how to use this, follow the procedure. So this connects to the calipers. This is intermediate bottle here, helps us to get started and get finished. Because remember, we won't have to empty this reservoir when we finish. So we open here and drop the oil back to the bottle, okay? So this will solve your problems. You can get this kit from Trikke. I'm just putting together, buying the valves and the hoses and putting the kits together. This is a 3D printed part that we do in-house. So just request the kit and we'll supply. I think we'll supply also these little bottles. It's like a juice bottle. And you have to have this little bottle with the needle, and the other tools are 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, easy to I know you have in your toolbox. Okay, so that will solve a big problem because trying to bleed the system without the proper tools is really difficult. Possible, but really time consuming and difficult and messy because you will spill oil everywhere, and this oil is not easy to contain. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video.